Hey everybody, this is Timothy Bennett here.
Zarin Banyan.
Jason Chandler.
And welcome back to Bibb Banter Bros Goes to the Movies. This is going to be part 2 of our Jupiter's Legacy, the Netflix original superhero film that recently came out.
Series.
And series.
Soap opera.
They use films. Well, actually, it's probably digital, but yeah, we're just going to dive right into it. And we're starting off this episode with episode 5 called What's the Use? Which
is actually very poignant because this episode, which by far is my favorite episode, is a lot of Utopian talking to a therapist.
Yep. It's also him assembling his team in the 1920s to go on his little adventure after they lose the business and stuff.
Yep. And you find out that the shareholders are going to...
That steel company goes flat broke. Walt, 1920s, Walt can't save it. The whole thing. Yeah.
Yep. And he needed his brother to come and help convince them to... But he was
too busy trying to convince people to follow him. And
he goes to convince George first, and then they go to convince Walt.
Which was the smart move.
Yep. And that's when he found out. So yeah, basically, he just fucked everything up. Mm-hmm. And then threw their life in a different path, different direction.
Yeah, for sure.
So, either way,
very different direction.
Yeah, the therapist conversation really dives deep into the ethics of this code. Mm-hmm. This is where you fully understand why he's doing it, what it means to him, why it's failing, blah, blah, or why it's not failing, but
just not working
falling
anymore.
apart as of late.
Things aren't changing, or things have to change, and he's resisting kind of thing.
Just like an old man.
Yeah. He is. He's 120. I don't know. Something
roughly
like
speaking, yeah.
So, in this episode, we also, in the present time, Utopian goes after Hutch because they're starting to find that they think that George has something to do with Black Star and the whole Black Star thing.
And is that in this episode?
So they remove the sphere from the body of the Black Star clone
after they summon the wizard.
Yeah, right.
I'm just calling him a wizard.
Is that a wizard? That's the guy that they found in the water?
No.
This guy came out of nowhere.
This guy is
not one of the island guys.
He's basically just a hero who can manipulate inorganic... Is it inorganic matter?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's one of the two. It's organic or inorganic. But yeah, so they use him to manipulate...
Mr. Wolf.
Is that what he's called?
Yeah.
Yep.
But Pompous. So yeah, they
more than Walter.
Very. But yeah, so they pull up like a sphere of some kind out, and it opens up, and inside is
pocket watch.
Walt and Shelley's dad's pocket watch with the crack in it and everything, and they look at it, and then come to find out it's an exact replica of the one that Shelley has in his house.
Yep. Down to a T
down to the actual cracks in the glass.
Where the crack and the time stop and all that. Yep. So that's where they basically realized it's. They realized it was a clone because the actual Black Star is still in prison. Yeah. But
Skyfox.
Now they have a lead basically, and
they suspect that Skyfox or George is behind it because he was always the gadget guy.
Yep. Now, kind of give you some brief updated things. Is that Skyfox or George was Utopian and Sheldon's best friend, like brother.
Sheldon's best friend. I don't think he was best friends with Walt.
I didn't say that. I said he was like his brother. Yeah. George was like Sheldon's brother.
Well, yeah, you said he was and Walt, and I was saying that
I didn't say Walt.
Yeah, you did. I don't think I heard of Walt, but
no, I said his brother, like his brother. So,
I thought I heard Walt. Okay,
yeah. So George was like. I'm basically using both Skyfox and George, and then Utopian and Sheldon, but his best friend, and he was like his brother.
Yep.
And so,
friends their entire life.
Yep. But eventually, somewhere, which we don't get a lot of information
on this episode.
On this situation, but he turned against the Union. And
they can't find him.
Yeah, and he basically
became the greatest villain according to what they say.
Yeah, so he went bad. He went rogue, and now he's
in the wind.
In the wind. Yep. And nobody's been able to get hold of him or find him or anything like that. So this is like the first link and kind of lead that they've had to thinking that he's back or he's in cahoots doing something. And then it brings that Utopia wants to go find his son, Hutch.
And he finds him pretty fucking with ease.
Yeah.
Pretty much with ease.
Yep. And this is that moment where he runs into him in an alleyway during like a deal.
Yeah.
And he's like, we need to talk. And then Hutch is like, Iowa. And then like minutes later, Utopia comes, laser beams the ground. And
then
he's not going to pay for that road either, I guarantee.
Yeah.
I thought about that as well because of the first episode and the first scene with his son.
He's just do as I say, not as I do.
Right.
He was like, no one saw it. It's Iowa. Who cares?
Yeah, exactly.
But he did grab that teleport shaft.
Yeah, that rod, yeah.
And that he manhandled it.
Well, that was really interesting because like Hutch tries to call it back and he just holds on to it.
Yep.
Exactly, yeah.
And then it doesn't
so
work.
I wonder if there's some kind of like fail safe or some kind
What
of...
I think
Because I know
is-
Skyfox made it for his son, right? No?
Nope.
I got this wrong.
Yes, you did. It's okay. So
Thanks. Dude.
later on,
We'll dive into it later.
later on we find more information about that thing.
Okay.
But from what I gathered, and because they don't give you any real answer, but from what I gathered is that Shelley is the leader. So he's supposed to be the most powerful
Yep.
of them all, which is why Walt can't, which once again we learn later, Walt can't read his mind.
Yeah.
So I think it has to do with the entity that gave that galactical entity or whatever that gave them their powers
Yep.
basically made him the boss.
Untouchable.
Made him, untouchable, like the most powerful being
Okay.
kind of thing. I think that's kind of what I got from it. From that little thing. Because
Little
before
thing,
then, you really don't know. But
Yeah,
the
we're
fact
still
that
guessing here.
he could control, like it didn't work. I'm like, interesting.
Yep.
Well, and you saw
I mean-
you saw it try to pull away from him,
Yep.
and he just like pulled it back.
Yep.
And then he said home again, and it didn't do shit.
It didn't do shit.
It didn't even move. So that definitely makes me think that whatever that galactical entity, whatever, he probably has like
Like a failsafe.
whatever.
Yeah.
He's untouchable, I think.
Yeah.
He's probably, and this probably has to do with a purist. He's like the most chosen one. He's Neo of the Matrix kind of thing.
Let's not go there.
Either way, yeah, we get the therapist. I agree that therapist scene was really good.
Just the scenes in general, like the points he makes to Shelley about like how he treats the code, how the code affects him, how he like uses the code to interact with other people.
Yep.
And this is all very interesting.
This is the point where you finally get Sheldon thinking about his morality, like the present situations, but he's not almost like, it's like he's acknowledging that there is a problem and he doesn't really know how to deal with it, but he's not really acknowledging that it is a problem.
He understands that it's a problem in so much that the code isn't working in the world, but he doesn't. He thinks the world is the problem, not the code.
Exactly.
And I think that in and of itself, oddly enough, I think it shows a little more humanity to him.
That he's not always, he's not perfect.
He's not perfect. He's trying to cling to this code that has defined him for so long. And even the therapist says, like, it's kind of become you. Like, you are the code. And I think it just shows a level of, like I say, it's a certain amount of humanity that I think is lacking to some degree in the present day utopian.
Yeah. There's a big disconnection with the world around him.
He's taken the idea that he has to be apart from the world to an extreme.
Yep.
And just,
have you also noticed, so is this the same episode where it opens up with him having sex with?
I think that's the next episode.
Okay, then I don't want to skip ahead.
Because that's got some good points too.
It does.
It does.
It does. All right, now I want to skip ahead because.
Yep, that's next episode.
Okay.
It's in my notes.
Yeah.
Yep. Because I definitely want to talk about something about that, which kind of relates to this episode a little bit, to what you were just saying, actually. It has more to relate to what you were just saying, what you just mentioned in the next episode. I'll have to get back to it. Anyway, do we find, though, like, his humanity's being a little bit more brought to light, and it's being shined. But do you feel though that he hasn't like there isn't a loss of control, like he hasn't lost his control yet, but yet you can just feel it slipping from his fingers? Do you feel that his children and the younger generation of superheroes are starting to shift?
What do you mean shift? Like
again, away from the code?
Code, yeah.
Yeah, well,
I mean, you hear a lot of talk, but how do you feel
this is
about
the episode between Fitz's daughter and Brandon. I don't think that's this episode. I think that might be the next one.
Yeah, I think that's later.
Okay, but yeah, I mean, there's definitely, I'm sure there's some beginnings of a shift. I mean, nobody's truly happy with the way things went with the Black Star clone. So I mean, and you know that this is one of those things that's coming back is, you know, people are, you know, they're dying, and it's like, and you know, I think they even bring up the fact that he doesn't in the therapy session, he doesn't know the names of these people that are dying. He just knows who they were as heroes. He doesn't know the person. He knows what they represented.
Yeah.
Like he understands, or he knows the idea. He doesn't know the person.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big thing that they're showing that he struggles with. So that he doesn't connect to anybody.
Yep.
Even these people that are supposed to be like him, who are supposed to be, you know, these like his son, the Paragon, you know, and things like that. Like he doesn't connect to any of them.
Nope.
And I mean, there's something to be said, like, you know, the trope of like being an immortal, like not, you know, or having that longevity. Like it's hard to connect because you know they're gonna die. Like, or,
yeah, and we don't really know much about the powers that the children have. Like we don't know how they got them. We don't know what. All we do know is it's apparently genetic and it's passed down because the daughter made that clear in the first episode. I didn't ask for these gifts.
Right.
So it's definitely something that I'll bring up later, but it's kind of a burden on them. They didn't. They don't get to choose.
Well, and
what's happening. They get to choose whether or not they're going to do something with it, but they don't get to choose.
I find really strange, and I'm going to bring this up just now because you just made me think of it. For the fact that there's only 6 of the originals, why are there so many children with powers?
That's what I want to bring up. I have a theory.
Thank you. Yes,
but it's later on, and I don't want to spoil it yet because it comes on later on.
Somebody's whoring around.
Out there being a hoe.
Oh,
I have a theory though. I do. So this there is one big significance in this episode.
Yeah.
And that would be the connection or the acquaintance between
the Utopian and the therapist.
No.
Oh,
between Chloe and Hutch.
Oh, yes.
Because that becomes that is a shift. And that's the whole reason why I was getting to that superpowers, but she starts to shift, and it starts to show a lot more in this episode.
Well, and so this is where like she finally actually like meets Hutch. She wakes up in the hospital, and he's like, "You stole something that doesn't belong to you." She's like, "Well, what are you gonna do about it, asshole?"
Yep.
And then, do you see them start like dating in this one, like where they're sleeping together?
Kind of just cut to the chase,
episode?
or
I feel like they just kind of cut. I feel like they just kind of cut to the chase of them banging at one point.
Because that was the next scene you see them in, is that they're banging. Yep. But like I didn't remember if that was this episode or the next one.
Yeah, because basically what happens is then Utopia wants to talk to Hutch, and he goes after him, and then later on, Hutch says, "Oh yeah, your dad chased me down."
By, and then she does her thing like, "I'm gonna leave because you said my dad."
Yeah, well, she's like,
"Oh, so stupid."
Like, she's like, "Oh shit!" It's like, "Oh, I gotta get out of here." And it's like, it wasn't about you. Yeah. Basically, putting her in a place for a second.
Did you, in your mind, like when you see them sleeping together, did you just in your head here going, "Fuck you, Dad"?
I can't stand Chloe.
I hate her. Yeah,
she's awful.
Jason, spit out.
What?
Sorry, I kept rolling over you.
No, I fucking hate her, and I was just trying to make fun of her reacting to him, Hutch saying, "I talked to your dad this morning," and then she just jumped to the fucking conclusion of, "Oh, you're like the other guy who just wants to use me to get to know my father." And he's like, "Settle down, bitch. That's not at all what I was trying to do." Yeah. Well, and she's already got her coat on, dashing to the door.
Little drama queen.
So you guys asked for it, and I had my little temper tantrum.
My response to that would have been like, "Bitch, my dad is just as famous,
right?"
Right?
Actually, he's probably even more famous because he's a villain.
Because that's a good point. Because he starts talking about your dad wanted to know about my dad, and her reaction tells me that she knows who the fuck this kid is, who Hutch is. And
she even said that when
she first sees him, she's like, "I know you," and he goes, "Idaho."
Oh.
Yep.
Yeah, I missed that.
That was all it was. That was I know you.
I'm learning something about this.
Idaho.
I'm learning something on this podcast. Every time I'm mad at something or a character, I miss details. I'm just all boiling.
That is true. You did that. You did that in the last one too.
And a few other ones, yeah.
Yep, about the Dave Bautista's daughter being mad at him for killing the mom.
My rant was totally backwards. And you guys were like, no, that's not why she was mad.
It's okay, Jason. We're basically making you sound like an asshole.
Oh, nice. And this camera is making me look like one, too. Anywho, yeah.
I told you, put on the hat.
Yeah, that's going to help. I'm a douchebag asshole. Anyways.
Okay, so that's, there wasn't there was some significance, but I think that the biggest significance is that you have Chloe and Hutch that start to hook up. That was basically the biggest significance.
That's the big shift, yeah.
The big, I think that we all liked, but it was a big surprise. The big secret or surprise or whatever you want to call it, the reveal in this episode was the therapist, him talking to the therapist.
Yeah, so at the end of this episode, you'll hear a bang on the wall, and the therapist at this point is getting frustrated.
Yeah,
with that because it seems like they're going around in circles. Mm-hmm. This is in large part because of how wrapped up in the code and how stubborn Shelley is. But you hear a bang on the wall, and they go, "Oh well, our time's up." And he's like, "Don't you think it's odd that I'm the person you open up to, especially after I spent 20 years trying to kill you?"
Yep.
And it pans over. This is again one of those things where the newspaper clipping came into play, and it shows the therapist,
his mugshot.
Jack Higgs or something like that.
Yeah, it was like a mad,
genius, mad genius, criminal.
Finally apprehended or something along those lines. But basically you find out that he's Utopian's arch nemesis.
Yep.
And he's seeing Shelley's coming to see him in the Supermax prison.
Now I think about 20 years of trying to kill him, the Utopia, implying that he got away with it for 20 years before he was incarcerated. He must be a fucking genius. I want to see that story.
Well, I think that's one of the things that we can hope for in the next season, maybe.
Oh, yeah, that's the flashback. That would be
cool.
Yeah.
Flashback or,
I'd definitely like to see more Skyfox, but...
Yes.
More villains, because we only really got one focused villain. You were introduced to several. You got little low criminals, was it Byron or Baron or Baryon?
Baryon, yeah.
Or whatever. But that's in the next episode.
Next episode. We'll talk about him in a minute.
So, yeah, okay.
He's not important. It's the scene he's in.
It's the situation.
Yeah.
Yep, what happens.
The catalyst,
Yeah, that will be... That's what's going on right now. So far, we're still loving it. Still loving the show.
Oh, yeah.
The expectation is being held, right? They haven't taken anything away, and we're like, oh, that's disappointing, or changed our views. It's still, if anything, it's just building and building and building. The 1920s origin story is starting to unfold and come into play.
And it's starting to have
now it's starting
quest.
It's starting to really put the missions, or it's really being put into drive now.
The journey begins.
Because that vision, those 6 people he saw down in Red Miller's, I'm just going to say it.
I like that. Yep. That's nicely done.
Red Miller's.
Red Miller's cellar.
What's his name in RoboCop? Let's throw that in there.
He's seeking out those people.
Lead henchman. Lead henchman with gun.
Bespectacled henchman.
More bullets than...
Yeah.
Carry.
Definitely it's starting to, pieces are being...
Yeah.
It's all coming into play. All the designs, it's like the journey begins. Getting to the destination that Shelley's been trying to find begins.
Yeah, and they start with Grace. George and Sheldon start with Grace for the convincing of,
I thought they got Walt first. No, maybe I got that backwards in my head.
No, Walt was one of the last.
Yeah, because it was George and Sheldon that go into Grace's office when she's getting fired.
When she's getting fired and she does.
Right. But it's only George and Shelley when they go to get Walt, too.
It is. Yep.
So that's why I just got them confused. That's all.
I do like that line, though. It was like, where... Is that all on over there? Where Grace is like packing up her shit and it's like, oh yeah, they decided to downsize by one because I wear a skirt.
You don't have a penis.
I love that. I like how she.
Where's my mug?
Where's my? That's something you would do, Tim. and then she's like,
walks over to the guy that's drinking out of it, just like dumps it out.
What do you eyeball? Chipmunk throws paper.
Yeah, so many good moments and anger,
like
believable.
She's just like, does this one talk? Not hiding her mouth, doesn't it on the other side facing him. Does this one talk, or is he just for show? And George is like, oh, I definitely talk. But
here we go.
And she's like, yeah, it's something about because I don't have a dick or something like that. And George is like, debatable.
Yeah.
After like 3 minutes of her just fucking being a badass.
Yeah.
But I like that scene.
That was a good scene.
It was a really good scene. Once again, it was a little comic relief.
And it made me really like Grace a lot more.
It was probably really that actress's one of. I think this episode is really her time to shine.
Yeah.
In general.
Well, the next episode is really.
Oh no, we're not on that episode yet.
No, I see.
Fuck. Oh, okay.
So
the next episode is really her dramatic time to shine. This is her having some comedic relief.
Yep.
But yeah.
So, episode 6, cover her face. So, this is where they're going to, was it Safa, to find their boat ship, and the origin story. They get on the boat and they're sailing. That's basically and
that's all that happens in the 1920s.
Basically, yeah. The prevalence behind that is that Sheldon's talking to himself very loudly. He's arguing with himself a lot, and people are starting to notice and things of that nature. But that's basically what they're doing now is they're sailing now. What happens, though, in present time is kind of a little more important, too.
So there's two very important parts. They both involve Lady Liberty. One, she shows up to...
We'll start...
Cool.
Is one of them going to be that sex scene? This is the episode, and it starts in the beginning.
Right, yeah. Well, the sex scene isn't as important as much as the whole situation is focused on Lady Liberty.
Oh, if we're talking about Grace, so never mind. Sorry,
no, you're all good. That scene does actually show serve a purpose. It shows that there's starting to be that divide between Utopian and Lady Liberty. Like, and it's kind of an odd way to show it because it's literally him going off to not fight off a meteor, but like to stop a meteor.
Redirect a meteor that entered Mars's atmosphere.
He's like mid thrust and like
she's like, she says, "Don't stop," and then he stops.
And I want to be like, bro, you couldn't have waited another like 30 seconds. You were there.
No, it's just like him dropping that phone to go help some random guy in the fucking street.
Yeah, he's immediately.
He just loves help. I don't know. Yeah. He'll sacrifice whatever.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, he'll sacrifice. Like he'll immediately drop whatever he's doing to save someone else or save people. And I think that's kind of what that is.
And she's just basically left there and satisfied. And as he leaves, like, hey, can you pick up a dry cleaner? He says, absolutely. So
it's not the first time this has happened.
Yeah, and that's something that they've been married for 60 years, and I think that for a moment, just a split second, you get, okay, so they're still in love, passionate, because it looked like it was a good thing. Yep. But then he stops, and then that coldness comes into play. Yep. And anybody else realize the dramatic cinematic bars that come into play and then shift away in certain scenes? So it happens in Hutch when Hutch reveals his like vault, right? The bars come down, and it gets into a cinematic scene because it's a dramatic, serious focus. Okay. And they use that for a dramatic effect. I thought that was very interesting.
Interesting.
All right. But getting back to the two big scenes, there's probably three technically. But the first big scene is there's two heroes, actually there's three. There's one on the ground, and then two more heroes fighting another villain. They stop the villain. He's like laying on a car, and I think one of the heroes wants to basically just kill him off.
Yeah, so you have the two bad guys, one of them escaped, and then you have Ghost Beam, you have one on the ground, you have the lava guy, and then you have another chick.
I forgot that Ghost Beam was there.
Or it's not Saphira, Sierra.
Yeah.
So there's four young superheroes, and basically one of them wants to kill.
Basically, they're in a big fight. They all got their asses kicked. One is basically gonna die.
Yep.
One is down on the ground. The guy with the lava hands wants to finish off the one that's there, and then there's Ghost Beam who's like, "This isn't supposed to be the way. Like, we're not supposed to do this," because she's adhering to the code.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a poignant thing that she even brings up to like a scene later.
Lady Liberty.
We'll get into that in a second, but basically, Lady Liberty stops the guy with the lava hands from killing the villain, and the hero that she stops is, I think, justifiably angry.
Yep.
He's tired of watching his friends die,
Yeah.
and he kind of gets in her face for a minute. She basically tells him, "Back up before I back you up."
I like how she does it. It's like
Take 2 steps back.
Lower your voice. Take 2 steps back.
That was mom and superhero in the same
Yup,
sentence.
that's what I mean.
What that was.
I thought that was really good. I will say, Lady Liberty is a better mom and superhero than Utopian is a father and a superhero.
Yes,
for sure.
Because I think
It's a great
in large
bridge.
part because she hasn't lost all of her humanity, or she hasn't stowed it away behind this wall of code and everything.
Yeah, her justifications for what she's doing is just because it's right.
Yeah,
and her
She hasn't
destined path is
sacrificed all
not
that
because
logic.
it was because of something like
Right.
Sheldon. Absolutely. So she agrees with everything. It's just she doesn't have a what do you want, bigger purpose to it.
She's not defined by the code
Nope.
like Sheldon is. Sheldon, that's the biggest issue. Sheldon's defined by the code. And so if the code doesn't work, Sheldon doesn't work. And I think that's probably the larger
Too much
idea.
relying onto it. Yeah,
Yeah,
he's too tight. He's holding on to it tight.
Yeah, he like you said, he's defined by it. So if it doesn't work, he doesn't work.
Which is funny because they say is you can't love something or squeeze something too tight because you can break it, and that's basically what's happening. Is he's held on to this so tight that there hasn't been any wiggle room, and now because there's no wiggle room,
it's starting to break.
The system is falling apart.
Yep.
And that's the whole point about this, which is what you're getting at.
Yep.
With
scene,
Grace.
Yeah.
She's starting to see this.
Yeah, and the next scene is
Ghost Beam
and her at the Supermax after they've taken the villain that they captured in, and they're talking about how bad it is out there and everything. She's like, and I think Grace says something akin to people not wanting to go against the code or go with the code anymore, and Ghost Beam, who is kind of this goody two shoes, it's kind of isn't that all the more reason to adhere to the code?
Mm-hmm.
And then they talk about Chloe being in the hospital, and that's how Grace finds out that Chloe OD'd.
Oh, yeah.
And she flies off.
Go meet her at Hutch's place.
Yeah.
Which I think is funny.
No.
It's not her apartment. It's Hutch's
you're
place.
Right.
Yeah.
She's floating outside the window
While
Hutch is in the bathroom.
But once again, to take a step back, before she learned about Chloe, when Ghost Beam was talking about that, basically Ghost Beam had brought that to Lady Liberty's attention about the code, but she didn't have a response. She didn't have an answer.
Yeah.
Because she realized what they're saying is true, but it's almost more of an awakening at this point. She's still she hasn't seen it necessarily, but she's realizing, oh my goodness, this is a problem.
Yep.
And it's not until after the whole Chloe thing when she goes and fights.
Yeah, then we see she's responding to a situation with a baryon.
Whatever. Yeah. Is that how you baryon?
I think so.
Looks like a weird glowy.
Basically, it kind of looks like Parasite from Superman comics.
I don't remember.
But anyway, so she goes into this warehouse where the police have it cordoned off, and they're like, "Oh, who's in there?" She's like, "Oh, Ghost Beam's in there." And they go in, and there's Ghost Beam sitting on the ground against a wall, her guts spilling out of her gut. And the big thing she's saying is I followed the code. I didn't kill him. I followed the code. And she dies saying, I followed the code.
And that was when you really see Lady Liberty in a badass mode because she's raging.
Yeah.
It's intense. This is Mama Bear just got poked.
This is one of her barbarian rages.
Yep.
So she essentially
she's
goes
such a badass too.
She fights Baryon.
It's a badass scene.
Yeah, and
basically it's not to interrupt you, but basically you see it from Baryon's point of view, essentially, and her just raining fists down at his face and blood splattering against her face and stuff like that. And she comes walking out.
Call the coroner.
Yep, she'll call the coroner. We got ghost beams down, and they're like, "Well, what about Baryon?" He's like, "He gets to live," and she just wanders off. And then the next thing is she's in the bathtub, and then Utopian comes home with the dry cleaning.
Yep.
And he's like,
"Oh, how was your day, hun?"
Yeah, she's like, yeah. She said they're like exchanging like, "Oh, how was your day?" He's like, "Oh, I ran into Ghost Beam," or I think she actually refers to her by name. He's like, "Who?"
Yes, it's another one of those moments.
Chloe's
Ghost Beam.
So,
he's like, "Oh, nice girl. Oh, how is she?" She's like, "She's dead."
Yep. I will say right before that though, when Lady or Grace asks like, "Oh, how did it go?" And it's like, it's like I might need Brandon next time. It's like it's getting a little harder.
Not getting easier.
Yeah, it's definitely showing a sense of time. And we said that before when he's sitting on the bed, he just looks like he's ready to hang it up.
That's when he sits down on the bed and has that like old man.
And this is another moment. Yep, this is another moment where you can just see like he's getting a little tired. Yeah. But it's like our kind of tired.
Yes.
So he's still got a good little bit into him, but this is like our kind of tired where
he's wary.
Yeah.
Like he's seen enough and he's done enough that he's just his it's cliche to say it this way, but his soul is tired.
Yep. He's like he's ready to pass it on. And he's mentioned that too about Brandon needing to be
he wants Brandon to be the next like Utopian. He wants to pass it on, but he's just so critical of Brandon.
Right.
Not thinking
because apparently no one's going to be stronger than Brandon. Yeah. Because he said early on in this season that you're going to be stronger than everybody, especially me one day. I mean, even me one day. Yep. And you need to be able to handle that responsibility, blah, blah, blah.
Is this the episode where Brandon talks to Fitz's daughter about her quitting the union?
Actually, I think. Oh, I don't remember. That might be the next. I don't remember.
That's an important scene too.
It is an important. Just go ahead and talk about it because I don't actually remember.
Okay, so Fitz's daughter.
It was just a little bit of a blip, but it was an important blip.
Fitz's daughter, after having talked to her dad about wanting to leave the union and not be a superhero anymore, and he has the talk with her about you fight the fear and all that. She comes to Brandon at the farm and is talking about I want to. Pardon me.
That's not what she said.
Yeah. She's like, I want to quit the union, and he's like, he's trying to talk to her. He's like, you can't quit the union. We need you now more than ever. Yeah. And she tells him, she's like, I don't believe in the code anymore.
And he says but if you go, others will follow with you, and hey, we need you more than ever. Yeah, and then he uses the same term that his father uses, which is a good point later on. That I don't know. I don't remember what he says actually about being better, but
when Brandon talks to his father about what he did.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying what he had said. I don't remember
what he actually says to Fitz's daughter. Because
I just remember him being like, "I used your words, and they felt natural for once."
Mine, and the next episode that he mentions that he's bragging about because he's like, "Oh, I don't want to lose you." It's like, you're not gonna lose me. I found myself saying your words. Yep. But that's kind of the next episode. So the significance of this episode would be what?
Also, it's the starting point of Grace. Not defying or going against Utopian, but not seeing things the way he sees them anymore.
She's being
not so black and white.
Yeah, firsthand. She's been at firsthand seeing the issue that the bad guys are not playing by the rules anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. Used to be, and that goes back to the way the code was. It used to be that there was a set of rules, you acted a certain way.
And now it's all gray.
And then as far as the 1920s timeline, they all deal with Sheldon going crazy. He almost gets shot. Blah blah blah. Everyone's losing their mind. Then they enter the barrier of this place they're going, and time stops. And right. Is that what happens?
They drive into the storm.
They all get migraines or whatever, and then his dad's stopwatch stops.
Yeah, that's where the crack
and then everything's calm and it's in its own world. They've crossed the barrier.
Yeah, they definitely. That whole island scene. I actually really want to talk about that because it's.
So we enter the island on this episode 6.
They see it at least. I don't think they've gone onto the. I don't think they go onto the island.
Well, I just mean like the.
But yeah, like when
the headaches stop, they're in that world.
Yeah, they get past the storm.
Whatever it is, yeah, the barrier.
Because the storm is essentially the barrier, and that's why they were saying like, oh, it acts like it's alive because like when you try to go around it, it goes with you. You gotta go straight through.
Yeah, and they were all freaking out trying to turn around. He's like, no, you need to fucking go straight. You cannot stop. So
he was right.
And that leads into the second episode, or in the 7th episode.
Yep.
So, which is very, very important.
What's the name of this one?
Omnis Pro Uno.
I'm assuming it's Latin.
Maybe. Probably. It sounds something like that. But that's where they are on the island now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the island, I think I had mentioned this to Jason. I felt like I was watching Lost for just a little bit.
A little bit.
It seemed like, it's not like they're taking a little bit, this whole island in the middle of nowhere. And
I looked at it, I was like, I wish Lost would have taken a little bit from this.
That's exactly what I said. This had a better ending.
Never seen Lost.
Too late now.
Yeah.
It's fine.
But the big significance of this island that we find out kind of right away is that, among the storm that they said it seems like it's alive, they realize that this island, as they're walking and they're hiking, starts to come alive. But they're almost always consistently bickering at each other the entire way that they're on this island. And it's basically George and Walt that consistently been bickering at each other because they don't really like each other.
Right. Yeah.
And that really has a big effect on the outcome towards the end. But as they journey through, they realize that this is a trick. This is a mysterious trick island because they get basically where they should be in the mountains. And it's like they have a whole other hundreds of miles to go because there's this giant desert everywhere. This desert shouldn't be on an island that's so small. The peaks were right there, and then they've been walking for hours and hours and hours or whatever, and then all of a sudden there's a fucking desert coming out of nowhere, and they haven't even reached the peaks that were right there.
Yeah.
So like that's where they start to realize this is bullshit.
Right.
It's like fuck this place.
And that's when you start to posit the idea that the island is alive because they turn around and try and leave. The fucking trees start popping out of the ground.
Walt quits. He's like, I'm done. I'm going back to the ship. I quit.
Yep.
Yeah. And then trees pop up everywhere.
Yep.
And next thing you know, it starts to snow.
George is trying.
Where'd that come from?
George starts talking shit at him about wanting to quit, and then Grace finally has to be like, "Did you see what happened with those trees?"
Yes. So the point about that is that it's creating tension and it's basically testing this group. And they keep referencing that. This island is testing us.
Yep.
And they need to learn to work together.
Yep.
For the island to give them
and they learn that later.
Passage.
Yep. They later on learn that, especially when they're on the ridge. So they go through the desert and all that, and they find themselves walking on the ridge. And that is where it's a very, I want to say it's an emotional scene, but it wasn't really like emotional. Like I didn't feel any emotion, but it was
a
emotional.
high tension scene.
Yes, it was very appropriate. Where basically Walt caves in to Sheldon about how he's basically jealous and envious of how easy Shelley's had it all his life, and how he's basically like a messiah, and everybody just a snap of a finger will follow him into anywhere he wants to go. He's had it easy. He hasn't had to work for anything, and this and this and this and this, and Walt basically gets it off his chest at the wrong time, and then he almost falls.
Yeah. Oh, side note, Omnis Pro Uno translates to all for one.
Oh, cool. So
that
totally makes sense.
Take that, Three Musketeers.
I would say, is it Latin?
Yeah.
Okay. That's cool. It really shows though when they get into that kind of labyrinth thing, and then they reach into that like opening with the trees. Bowl? Yeah.
How many? Because was there only one group of 6 corpses, or is there many?
There's multiple groups? Yeah. So they basically
were always in groups of 6.
They showed like at least three different cultures throughout period of time.
Looked like
Vikings, some kind of native.
Yeah.
And I don't like
I think there was at least one set where like they were like still upright, but like both had swords going through each other.
Yeah, it was like one spike, and then like there's a spear going through one of them, and an axe on the neck.
Yeah,
and they looked So that was pretty important, given that they realized, so we're not the only ones that have been moving here. Others have too.
Yep.
And then,
but they didn't learn to work together.
Then they lost their shit, and they started fighting because all of a sudden these walls just came alive and got taller.
Yeah, and they figured out there was no way out.
Yep. And so they started going against each other.
We've forgotten to mention the guy they fished out of the water.
He is important.
Who is important for two reasons. One, he rounds out the Union.
Yep. And that was the episode.
And B, he's got the...
But that's not till later.
I know, I'm just saying.
Yeah, so they did fish that guy out of water. I think he's just easy forgettable because he's not
important yet. Like, he's not important in any way
he's not important at all, to be honest.
Until next season, I assume, when he becomes important.
Maybe, hopefully.
I hope.
The only important thing about it is the rod that you find out much later, but later in this episode. Yeah, but he was fished out of the ocean.
He was on a missionary trip or something like that. He was a doctor.
Yeah, that's what it is. He was a doctor. I couldn't remember what he was. He was a doctor.
Mm-hmm. I think it was like Doctors Without Borders.
So he had a knack for saving people.
Yep.
And kind of starting to see something.
Right.
But the whole thing is in that bowl is they realized that it was Grace who realized that these people, these other cultures, or these skeletons,
they all turned on each other.
Yep. Why do you think that the island was luring these people in just to turn them against each other? You know, like it was one of those.
Well, I mean,
they answered it. They answered it without actually knowing. You know what I mean? Like, you get the answer right away. But I thought it was just the whole journey, the whole thing. I was just like, why? Why is this just to turn around and have that happen?
It's to build a better team.
Right? Yeah. And that was probably the most appropriate and satisfying answer. And then I look back at, like, the present time, and it's just look at it. I felt like the way that the story, the whole point, let me try to summarize it, get ahead of my thoughts. Mm-hmm. So the parallels started to split away. The parallels start to shift in the story. So in the 1920s, in the superheroes' origin story, it starts to prevail. Mm-hmm. They start to grow, they start to go in their destined spot and all that. But in the real world, shit's falling apart. It's just falling apart. It's going in shambles. It's at its point of completely shattering.
Well, it's like any great dynasty or empire, really. Like, you know, the great ones always ended up falling at some point because through infighting and, you know, betrayals and treachery and stuff like that. I mean, it's...
But what I thought was really interesting was the mirror image, the duality of mirror between the parallels. For as much as they're splitting, it's almost relevant. They're fighting in the present time, and they're fighting in I mean, not simultaneously, but the societal issues with what they're dealing with going against each other. They're going against each other. Nobody's working together as a team anymore. At the exact same time, you find that in the origin, they had to overcome that obstacle.
I see.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So there was a sense of mirror imagery or whatever, or between the two sectors of the story.
Right. It's the what they say when they start seeing that the wall lights up when you touch it, but like the second Walt touches it, nothing happens. Mm-hmm. Like, well, no, you and Walt, like George and Walt, you guys gotta get over this shit because like George's handprint fucking deluminates. Like, no, you guys gotta get over it. And then they kind of just like. They move past it, then shit lights up, and then all of a sudden Shelley's goes down. Grace is like, no, you and Walt are going to get over this shit now, too. And it's all about, like, you know, you have to get past, to be a perfect team or whatever, like, the idea is that you get past all this shit.
It's not about you anymore. It's about
the whole.
Everybody
else. It's not one part. It's the whole is what counts.
And that to me was extremely significant to, once again, the story of the present, because what is happening?
They're all separating. On the code. They're not working
and
together.
Who is the one that's basically causing a sense of separation?
Oh, the Utopian.
It's Utopia, because he is now focused on just him, basically, and his code.
Mm-hmm.
That to me was brilliant writing.
Yeah.
Now that's what I caught. That's what I saw. That's the way I was analyzing it.
Yeah.
And I thought that was fantastic. I loved the island scene too. I thought that was a really cool whole section. When they go into, so when that wall opens up and you see them go into.
They enter the Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus.
What I thought was brilliant about it is I was always wondering about the name Jupiter's Legacy. Where the fuck did Jupiter ever come into play?
Jupiter was the king of the gods.
Until now. Now they're on a moon of some sort outside and surrounding Jupiter.
Yeah.
And I was like, that is clever. And whatever this galactical alien entity is that gives them the power, I thought the whole scene was fucking badass.
Mm-hmm.
It was super cool.
I don't remember. I must not have been paying attention to it very well because I don't remember it very well.
Oh my goodness.
Apparently, I'm going to have to go back and watch it.
So that was, I thought it was beautiful. It was amazing. It was significant because this is where you get the question, my theory of how are there so many villains and superheroes running around, right?
There's more than one team.
When they got their superpowers, when they accepted that kind of role and they were chosen, a burst of galactical energy swooped across the world. Now, when you're looking at the sailors on the boat, you can see those symbols and those scrying runes that were all on the walls and stuff enter their skin.
Oh, interesting.
There's at least 8 to 10 men on that boat. So my guess is they are probably some of the ones that had offspring that over 100 years spread it out. And they passed on abilities to them and abilities to them.
Right.
Now, because they weren't chosen, they weren't necessarily heroes. And that's why I think that we had our 6 heroes.
Some splash damage from the...
Yes, it's like residual radiation, basically.
Interesting. That's an interesting theory.
That is my theory. That's the way I perceived that.
The
I have no idea,
of them
but that was my theory of why we had so many whatever. And that's why the superheroes are the strongest, is because they were chosen.
Yeah.
Especially Utopian. He was chosen. He was the chosen one.
Yeah.
He was the one who set all of this in motion.
Mm-hmm.
That's a theory I can get behind. I mean, I understand it at least.
And I
Better than I got.
really think that you're right. Like, this whole island was like this own little world for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I did love the fact that they just come flying on the ship at the end of the episode and full gear and outfits.
Yeah.
And that
Like they
to
were
me,
just waiting there too. Like, oh, here's your outfit.
that to me also signifies the importance behind the outfit. To go, they didn't get to choose their outfit. It was chosen for them to define or to distinguish whatever it is that they are.
Just like the Power Rangers.
Just like the Power Rangers. That's exactly what I thought, to be honest.
Wow,
It's just like the Power Rangers.
Holy shit. Yeah.
Or even Superman, for example.
Yeah.
You know, his outfit isn't just because it looked cool. It was a purpose. I mean, not other than a symbolic, whatever, Superman S. You know what I'm saying?
Hope.
Yeah, so that was my analysis of that whole situation, which is why I was wanting to bring it up.
I like that.
Stuff, yeah.
Because I was the same thing. Where do all these fucking superpowers come from everybody? How does everybody, like the Nick of Time guy, you have powers? Yeah, I thought you knew that. Nick of Time? It's terrible.
I'm Nick of Time. What?
Yeah, I did, but that's right around the time I was like, does everybody fucking have powers? Like, nobody seems like it's a special thing anymore.
It was one of those things where I was like, all of a sudden I was like, there's only 6 of them. Where the fuck do all these people come from?
Yeah. Other than, the elite, which would be, their children that they had.
Well, that was my other thought. I was like, either that or they're spreading seed pretty heavy.
Yeah. We do, though, in this episode, we do get in some really interesting shit with Walt.
We're in episode 8 now, right?
No, we're still on 7.
Still on 7, yeah.
I thought 7 ends with them flying.
It does, but we've just been like recapping the 1920s shit. We're getting to the present day shit now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, in the 1920s, in episode 7, the end of the episode 7, they come back on the ship from the island.
Present time Walt.
But
what the
present
fuck is
time
he
Walt,
up to? He's starting to get into his.
So they want to dive into
the Black Star clone.
The Black Star's
start
brain.
waking up parts of its brain.
But that was after Walt went and visited the real Black Star and threatened him, basically.
Yeah,
and
that's right.
And he's like, it's like, you have anything you want to tell me, kind of thing? He's like, because I'm gonna dive into that brain, whether you like it or not. I'm gonna find out the real stuff. He just like chokes him with his mind, and he's like, "Oh, it's like you think you're tough? You don't wait until you get the real Black Star out there." It's like, I don't give a shit. I'm not my fucking brother.
Yeah,
that's that one little weird like emotive thing he does. Is like, I'm not my fucking brother. Yeah. And he gets like very upset about it.
Because you said he was like one tone all show, and then he says that, and he switches the tone.
Is now when we're introduced to Raikou?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
His daughter?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, because they're like...
away, but whatever.
Yep. No, that's where I was leading to. That's what I was leading to is with Walt.
Yeah.
I also feel like I haven't heard any swearing. I haven't heard anybody say fuck. I see shit all the time. Yeah, I heard that, but I don't think I heard anybody really say fuck up until around this point.
I think Chloe said it a couple times, I think.
Yeah, I don't think like she has. Did. I think she just says shit all the time.
It's probably just in your head.
Maybe. I'm probably just adding flavor.
Fucking Chloe.
Right?
I'm just adding flavor in my own mind to this conversation.
I just feel like I haven't heard anybody say fuck.
I think you're right, yeah.
Until Walt. I'm not saying 100% because I would have to rewatch and count because I wasn't doing that.
Because if there was a lot of swearing, I wouldn't be praising the dialogue in this show.
Right?
Right.
And that's what I was actually bringing up is...
Excessive swearing is lazy right now.
Yes.
And it comes from the guy who, honestly, I didn't expect from the most. And that would be Walt.
Yeah. Yeah, oh, for sure. Well, that's what makes that line so significant because, like, it's an emotion you haven't seen out of Walt, like present day Walt. And yeah, he delivers it with that much like
anger,
emphasis on the word.
Yeah, emphasis on the word, like
resentment,
just dripping with fucking venom.
It really does make you go, oh wow, okay, what do we got going on now?
Yeah.
Yep. Now, as far as I know, that was basically the huge significance that I can recall is other than the daughter, which at this point isn't really all that significant until the next episode.
Yeah.
But she comes into the picture.
Do they go to Tokyo in 7 to look for her? Do they have the Merson? Because Utopian's like...
Actually, I think that is it. Is that all in 8?
I think it's all in 8. Because you thought you had a whole nother episode to go when you first saw it, and then you only had like 3 minutes left when you clicked on it.
Well, for the ending, yeah, but...
I think in episode 7 is where Grace and Shelley start arguing over the fact that the younger heroes don't feel like they're being heard, and like because she's the one that says that getting Raikou is a good idea. Like she supports Walt on it, and
Sheldon's like, no, we're not going to hire a mercenary or
an assassin.
Basically like
we're not going to team up with a mercenary.
We're not going to let an assassin just walk into our whatever. Yeah.
They all just tell him to fuck off, basically.
And that's when he and Grace start arguing. And she's like, I'm like somewhere along the way, like I stopped letting truth be like by defining whatever. Like I've always let my life be defined by truth or something like that. And somewhere along the way I stopped, but that I'm not gonna do that anymore. And that's where she stands up to him.
She puts her foot down.
And he's like, what can I do? She's like, you just need to listen.
So she is introduced in episode 7, and then she goes over into episode 8. So yeah, we did introduce into. So that must have been the whole. I think episode 8 is when she comes into
when she shows up
the justice, the union,
the union hall union hall,
and that's when it's like, oh, so you got this kind of hot Santa thing going on. Like, hey, big guy, dig the beard.
That's right, yeah.
I was like, oh, that's when
7 is probably when he goes into her mind when she's in Tokyo
Japan, when she's assassin.
Yeah,
she's pretty badass.
And
but
then they negotiate the prices.
Yeah, I will be honest, not really a fan of her.
Her character was just
Yeah, to me it was
came in too late. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like it had its purpose for sure, but it was just like
it was like nothing original. It definitely reminded me of other characters.
The character was just like, here's somebody that'll, whatever.
Yep. Well, let's just get into it. So episode 8, which is called "How It All Ends."
Yep.
Seems pretty appropriate.
So I think right at the end of, like, the last thing you see from the previous episode. No, never mind. Getting ahead of myself.
Well,
right.
In episode 8, we do get a good glimpse of the beginning of the Union with all of them, with all the 6. And this is where we get that guy with the rod.
Yeah.
And it was the guy
doctor
that
they fished out of the water.
He had the rod because Fitz was talking about, was like, we get super strong, we're super fast, all this and this, we can fly, and you get this?
You're the only one that gets one of those.
Yeah, it's like, why do you get that?
Like, I was chosen.
Right? Because you're all not worthy. That's all that we get, but that's the first time we also see that it does not belong to Hutch. It belonged to somebody else.
It doesn't belong to Skyfox, which I assumed was.
And that's what I was gonna get at. Is like, obviously that sets up for like a betrayal, and that's where I think maybe, because that guy's not around anymore.
Right. Yep.
Maybe Skyfox killed that
for
doctor guy.
Yeah. And that's kind of my thought on that whole thing.
That's kind of my.
It doesn't explain why Hutch has it per se, but it explains why Skyfox got it.
Yup. I'm curious.
I'm also curious as to why Hutch doesn't have powers, because it seems to me that all of like the 6's children inherited powers, but Hutch seems to be like the only one that hasn't.
Maybe just been a lack of dominant gene.
Yeah, I would assume it's a gamble, unless it's Utopia and Grace. Like,
but I mean, Fitz's daughter. I guess she's the only other child, but
because Grace is the only lady. I don't know.
Maybe, I don't know. That was just a thought.
More answers to come in season 2.
Doesn't hinder him by any means with that rod.
No, I mean he's a technical genius for all intents and purposes.
Yep. I actually really like when he shows Chloe the whole gadget room.
We'll go into that whole thing about like the little caper he gets into.
Which honestly, it was a cool scene, and it had a little bit of a purpose, but I didn't care for the scene other than that one fact that's a good detail.
Other than the fact that it had he breaks into a room that has no oxygen.
True.
To break into something.
Yeah, I'm like, that's clever. That was very clever. I like that because it was original.
Has no oxygen, so like he tries to get back out, but he can't make any noise because there's no oxygen. Then he gets caught by the people guarding the room and starts getting the shit kicked out of him.
Holds his own the best he can for a minute.
He did. I was actually
especially
like,
for someone who can't breathe.
Right? I was like, this fucker can fight.
That's why that kid's pretty badass.
And then that whole scene is completely negated when Chloe just fucking busts through the goddamn.
And that was the only point to the.
And that just to me completely ruined everything.
It did.
Honestly,
like I say, it completely negates the high intensity of that fucking scene. When she just shows up and all, you just see the oxygen level just fucking rise up to 100%.
Because the
you
only
were
thing
just like, oh, okay, now Chloe's just gonna join forces with this guy. You see everything that's happening and why. And
all
you're
it was for was to set up this scene where like they become closer and he shows her the gadgets he's working.
Now, did you notice something new about Chloe when that happened?
She's wearing all black.
Outfit change. Have you seen most of what she's wearing? Isn't necessarily been all black, but she's
pristine,
sparkly, and like
she's been more. She's always been in a balance between the light and dark.
Yeah.
Now this is me and my just whole analysis thing going.
I was looking for meanings,
but this is the point where she made a point in the loft when they were getting an argument where she was when she's walking away. About like, oh, who are you gonna go see? He's like, oh, some people. I was like, well, you're not gonna tell me? He's like, those assholes or whatever. I'd like to keep personal things away from the daughter of Utopia, and she gets all pissy fit again about that.
Because that was brought up.
But they made the point.
D word.
Yeah, made the point of like she said, the world's greatest villain son, or the son of the world's greatest villain, and the daughter of the world's greatest hero together, it would never work. And yet she fucking followed him.
Yeah.
Well,
and into China.
Well,
from
I think
wherever she's from.
Because she's going to get what she wants.
Yeah, but that was the issue I had was where the fuck did she come from? And you followed me? He's like, yeah, whatever. Just get up. I'm saving your ass.
What I
Jesus
loved about
Christ.
that scene before when she's like, when they're arguing about that, and he's like, he basically tells her, like, you and I both have sections of our lives we don't want mixing. So go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He stuck it to her.
Yeah.
He was not afraid to
said,
say what's
eat
up.
a bag of dicks, go away.
Yep. He basically straight up told that bitch, like, hey, this is what's up.
And then the rest of his crew was like, no.
Right.
You've been boning the daughter of the Utopian?
Right. And he basically said, fuck you guys too. And I'm out. I'm Phil Collins singing this.
Right. I'm sorry I didn't tell you.
I'm going to go do Disney shit now. So how do you feel about that character shift, though? Because that's...
Chloe?
It's
predictable.
Absolutely predictable.
It's not coming. It's gonna. I will reserve judgment to see where her character goes because at this point, it's a predictable move for a character I give less than a fuck about.
Yep.
So until she proves that she's pertinent to a storyline, do whatever.
See, and this is what I like. This I didn't give two fucks about her. I still don't, but this made me more intrigued to see what happens next with her.
Right.
Because it's
she's gonna do something really fucking stupid.
Right. It's predictable.
Oh, yeah.
But I feel like she's now turning into a villain.
Yep.
And once again, it's kind of predictable, but it's not, and it's not unheard of, but it's not seen a lot of. And I just like the idea of Utopian's daughter being a villain.
Well, and what
something about that gets me a little excited.
And I got faith they'll do something good, and the writing is excellent. So,
sorry.
good.
What I think is going to be interesting is the weird. So I'm going to jump a scene, and this is when they go back to his loft, and he brings her into the room to show what he stole and like where it's going to go. And he's kind of explaining what it'll do and how it'll be like. It's something that can punch to the chest of like the world's strongest, hero or whatever. So he basically told him like, I'm making something that could probably kill your dad. And she goes, are you going to use it to fight my dad? And he's like, no, I'm going to use it to find mine.
Oh.
And I think that's going to be an interesting thing, like with what we learn at the very end of this episode is them teaming up with Skyfox to become the heroes of the story.
So,
which I think could be done, and I think would be very interesting.
So let's quickly get into the end of the episode because I have some thoughts and kind of questions. But basically, the end of the episode is that Black Star escapes from the Max facility and beats some crap out of some people, and then
is it safe to say Walt let him out?
Yeah, we can say that because it's going to roll right into it.
Yeah, we're going to just reveal all this shit now.
And that Paragon and Utopian go and fight them both, but Utopian has to now judge, does he save his code or does he let his kid die?
Yeah, Black Star has him by like the head, and he's like, you can either kill me.
Yeah. He gives him a free shot too. He's like, hey,
taunting them the whole time.
It's like, kill me or I kill your son. Choose. Yeah. So, but luckily
somebody comes in and interrupts something.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
It was Fitz's daughter.
Fitz's daughter, yeah.
But what happens is that Walter goes inside of the mind of the clone.
Yeah.
Previously and gets in a little fight with
Skyfox,
which is with George.
Mind Skyfox.
Yep. And now here's the thing is he comes out and Lady Liberty has to go in and save him, pretty much, and comes back out, whatever. And his daughter, Walt's daughter, who's the assassin, she's also like a mind person too.
She's a psychic,
sitting there helping, keeping like the doorway open, and so Walt doesn't get lost. But the whole fight scene in the mind, how did you guys take this? Because my mind was fucking running through these scenarios and these thoughts. But what were your thoughts on that whole Skyfox inside the head thing?
Given what was revealed later,
that's the thing, yeah.
I have reservations on whether that was actually like Skyfox in there.
Okay.
Same.
Okay. So at the end, basically, we find out in the very end, I'm just going to sum right up to it, that Walt is the one who cloned Black Star.
Yep.
And
put the watch
inside.
Put the blame on Skyfox.
He released Star Fox. Or, I'm sorry,
Black Star?
Black Star.
Yeah.
Star Fox.
No!
That's a video game.
Yep.
And he kills his daughter, slices her throat.
Well, they're speaking in like another mind construct for a minute, and like she tries to attack him after she reveals that she knew. She tries to bilk him for money, and then he's like, "Yeah, can I trust you to actually keep your mouth shut, or will you just go to somebody else that has more money?"
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then she tries to attack him, and then like he stops her, and then the construct comes down, and he's slit her throat.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, "I could have taught you so much." And he kisses her, and that's like the end of the episode.
Yeah.
Or no?
No, it goes
there's
back
a
to
scene
the
with
Justice,
him in Utopia.
The Union, yeah.
That's
the end of the
yeah,
episode.
that's
But
right.
Parallel scene.
point I was trying to get to was that when you are revealed that he is the bad guy, super excellent twist. Once again, not original.
Yeah.
But it was just so
Executed
good.
so well.
It was so well
Executed
done
so
because
well.
I thought at the beginning, I was like, man, I thought he was the villain at the beginning. I was like, man,
So
he's a bad guy. But then I started to think, okay, maybe he's not.
Yep.
here,
Exactly why it was. Yep.
here's the reason why I have so many questions and that I was bringing up. The way I'm looking at this was, he's the bad guy. What if he was the bad guy all along when Skyfox was the one who was considered the villain and he betrayed? But what if it really was a setup that goes, Walter is the one who betrayed or made it look like Skyfox betrayed, and that's why he was hiatus. And maybe that Walt had imprisoned Skyfox in that mind.
It could be, yeah.
And that's where he may have a belief that everybody's out to get him. Because Walt has the brain, his brainwave. He has this, the capabilities. He's one of the strongest, most powerful psychics in the world. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's
probably why they put so much focus on those two being hating each other on the island.
I feel like, I hope there's a second season. I hope they get to this.
Oh my God.
But that's what I feel
so
like.
Pissed.
It could be very interesting if, say, that Walt basically put Skyfox into a coma after framing him. And that's why no one's been able to find him. Because people are like, we don't know where he is.
Yeah, and when his Hutch was trying to say, "Oh, take me to Dad," and he keeps going to a strip club.
Yeah.
Not even the same strip club. That was funny. Yeah,
that was a good one. Yeah.
I was like,
yeah, I forgot to mention that earlier. That was
pretty funny.
That was yeah.
But I think I think that somehow that Skyfox has been framed would be very interesting. I think part of me says more so would be that Skyfox actually turned bad, but like redeems himself is a more entertaining idea to me, but that's my sort of frame of mind. I'm always a fan of redemption stories.
see, and I actually think that maybe Skyfox didn't.
But
I'm going towards the fact
Walt
that it was
just make him think he did turn bad.
Maybe.
And feels that people look at him like he turned bad or something.
Everything you just said basically. I just think it was a ploy. I think it was all like sabotage on George, and I'm just curious because I don't think that was really Skyfox.
Not in his mind,
but
no.
Lady Liberty physically had that too, and that's where she was in his mind, but it wasn't Walt that was doing it because Walt wasn't doing it either. He was inside the head. It was the daughter, and the daughter had didn't know anything about this. Yeah. So that's why I was like, maybe he was imprisoned in this mind.
That makes sense.
But George had some whatever. So many fucking questions.
Yeah,
I know.
I have so many things.
Who the fuck makes a series where the entire thing is a build up to a fucking cliffhanger, and you need like obviously there's cliffhangers, but the whole thing's an origin story, fleshing out characters. It's a setup, and then bam, you actually need a season 2 to get any kind of real conflict, action, and answers to all these fucking questions. It's so risky. What if they don't get signed for a season 2? What the fuck?
Like I said this before.
It's just
I
it's
feel
crazy.
like what they need to do is they need to, anytime that there's a series that comes out, excuse me, like a pilot season gets taken off for the first season, they have to sign on for at least a closing film or episode.
The way they did with like Firefly.
Yeah, because that was satisfying.
Except not like 20 years apart.
It wasn't far off. It was like...
I was making a joke.
Oh, okay. Because Firefly came out in...
I know.
Early 2000 and 2003. Oh, no. 2004 is when Serenity came out. It was only like a year later.
No, it's got to be further than that.
I thought it was longer than that.
Firefly came... I mean, it was like 2002 when Firefly came out, I think. Because it was still on TV. But
anyways, yeah, they need to have a conclusion to their story. Because I've heard that when you pitch a show, you need to have 3 seasons written.
Really?
To yeah.
And yet they won't finish all those 3 seasons.
True.
No, I get it, though.
You need to prove that you can...
Yeah.
If it gets popular, it can last at least that long.
But that's why, if anything, you should give every season either one more season or at least like an ending. You need to have a conclusion. Don't let it just dangle. Mm-hmm. That's so upsetting when that shit happens.
But at least there's comic books, and I do want to fucking look into the comic books.
Me too.
See the difference.
But I think I don't know.
I know. I don't want to spoil it or like have preconceived notions of expectations of what I want from the comic book source material. So what?
You don't want to be that guy like, this is not how it happened in the comics.
Right.
No, I don't like to comment on the internet. That's all that person sounds like to me.
All
social justice warriors.
So, gentlemen, it was a good season, right? Good first season.
Good first season.
Good show.
We need a season 2.
We're all going to sign the petition when it doesn't happen. That needs to happen.
I will burn Netflix to the ground.
You did not hear it here.
With or without people in the building.
I mean...
Okay, we found our villain.
I'm a man of extremities.
I see that.
I hope there's a second season for sure.
Me too.
I'm gonna be very upset.
Most definitely.
And
I hope there's a second season. I hope everybody that was in this one signs on to do the next season. I hope there's no holdouts because that just means something else I'm gonna have to burn down.
Right? Yeah, kind of like they did with American Gods. That just upset me.
But yeah, I can see why people that just don't care to think in depth or care about movies and writing and storytelling would judge this shit superficially.
Yeah.
So, and what'd you say? Rotten Tomatoes, 34. People,
yeah, it was like
78.
30%. It was like 38.
Not that I care.
38% for Rotten Tomato critics.
Yeah.
And then it was like 75% audience viewers.
Like thumbs up.
I'm like, good.
So hopefully that means something, because fuck Rotten Tomatoes, and hopefully the people matter more.
And that was a lot of the complaints was, ridiculous outfits, couldn't take it serious, or, it was like, it's so convoluted and there's no cohesiveness to it. It's like, it just doesn't set up and you don't get it until the end. I'm like...
So I'm just afraid that's going to ruin it.
You're the fuckers who read the ending of a book and then go, I don't need to read this anymore. I know what's going to happen.
Right.
I'm like, I'm sorry.
If the ending's dog shit, I'm not going to read the whole fucking book.
I'm okay with the ending being dog shit if the story is great. That's the whole reason why I'm reading the book or watching the movie.
I'm an asshole that will read like 3/4 of the book and be like, I see what's going to happen. I'm good.
Yeah, so I need all of it.
I see what the point is.
I need all of it.
You know what? The last book I blindly read? The Lord of the Rings trilogy. Took for fucking ever.
Yeah, if you were
you
blindly
picked the wrong
reading.
fucking book to read.
Yeah, I know.
They're great series, but they're also very dry and dull. The Hobbit, on the other hand, fantastic.
Yeah, because it was one book.
Yeah, and it was a quick read.
What'd you say, Lord of the Rings? Yeah, Dylan's reading that right now, I believe. And my son is reading it. My son is reading the Lord of the Rings.
Ask them how they like it.
He loves it. Dylan, I don't know about your son. He probably loves it too.
Yeah, he's
nerdy like that. All right, well,
yeah.
For the most part, we want another season. We want to see more of these characters. I think we kind of summarized what we think is going to happen in the next season for a few things at least.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm definitely really curious, and I don't want to wait a whole fucking year. I think I'm gonna have to start watching TV shows when they're like almost ready for a second season, so I don't have to wait a whole fucking year.
Then you're just waiting in a different time frame.
Yeah, but then I can go and watch other things and I don't know, distract my mind. But I'm super like once I'm on something and I have to wait.
But then I would have to wait too because I'd be like, I can't talk to you about this show,
That's
Tim.
true. That's true.
You're fucking with my life now, and I'm gonna have to burn your shit to the ground.
You should have known that when you've met me.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying.
Change your life for the better.
No, now you're talking about for the word. Anyways,
I have control.
Anyways,
that's me about shit. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah, I ain't fucking with you, arsonist.
Arsonist.
I'm just saying you won't ruin anything for me.
All right, gentlemen, let's wrap this guy up.
All right.
This is Timothy Bennett here.
This is Aaron Banyan.
Jason Chandler.
And we will catch you cats later.